Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and yeah, that new Battlefield 6, ladies and gentlemen, it ain't too bad. But it ain't perfect either. Now, you might be like, well, Muta, if you're not going to jerk the game off and if you're not going to completely chastise it, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit on that fence post there, pal? You know, the actual reality of it is that I like to be fair and critical for the kind of media that I consume. And, something that I kind of caught the attention of was, whoa, there are a lot of people playing this game. Now, I think for the first time, it's pretty obvious if you're like a Battlefield fan, and I've been a Battlefield player for quite some time. You know, I played me some Battlefield 2 back in the day, played me some Bustafield 2, to be honest with you. Battlefield 3 was my jam. Battlefield 4 is like that perfect, fucking amazing life moment that you had that you just keep trying to relive, okay? It's like Battlefield 4, for anybody that just has not played that game, it's one of my favorite shooters, one of my favorite multiplayer experiences, and to this day, I still jump back in to play it. Now, obviously, Battlefield as a franchise has not had a lot of hits recently, simply because I would say that EA has just kind of been trying to find out ways to monetize it, ways to make it into Call of Duty, and I think this year, this release, I really feel like Electronic Arts was like, listen, for all the drama that has happened, for all the nonsense, we're just going to stay right back. We're just going to chill back and let DICE and every studio cook. And I really feel like they did. So hundreds of thousands of people are playing this game, ladies and gentlemen. Something that I kind of saw the other day was apparently IGN rated the campaign for the game at a 5. Ooh. So to give you an idea, I picked this game up a little bit early, and to my surprise, the actual servers were functioning, so I played with me and maybe a few other people, day -1, day -2 of the game's release, and I was having a pretty good time. I was actually enjoying myself, even though that most of the experience was with bots. So on the official launch day for the game, I'm proud to say that there were hundreds of thousands of people connecting, and I actually didn't really have an issue. In fact, every single game that I've been playing today has ran smooth as fuck. I don't know if I've just gotten lucky. I don't know if I've been having a good time, but it's working. Now, I was kind of a little bit hesitant about this because I saw like footage of people like cheating on this game and just snapping to heads. And I was like, man, do I really want to jump into a multiplayer game now that I'm officially UNC status at this point? And to give you an idea, God, I hate the fact that I use that word. I want to die some days, man. I'll be real. But I've actually been enjoying it. Like, I feel like this is the one shooter where I feel like they toned back a lot of that Adderall, jump to people's heads, jump around the map the entire... Like, motherfucker, we are playing Battlefield, not Quake. This is a much more, I would say, refined experience, similar to something like Battlefield 4. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about a little bit is this campaign. Now, I'm somebody that loves playing a shooter campaign. To me, it's kind of like going to the theaters and watching Fast and the Furious. And you know when people are like, oh, the Fast and the Furious stories suck. Yeah, bro, you're going to the theater to watch Fast and the fucking Furious, okay? You lost your right to a good plot line any day. You go there for the guns, you go there for the women, you go there for the cars, you go there for the fun times with the boys. And Battlefield does not have any of those fun times with the boys when it comes to its campaign. Now, apparently the storyline for this game is all about NATO versus this PMC called Pax Armada. And I couldn't even begin to fucking tell you how Pax Armada came to be. The game does a really poor job of explaining shit. And so Pax Armada is apparently this like private military contractor, this like, I don't know if it's like a terrorist organization. They kind of just came out of nowhere. And apparently because NATO started pussyfooting around the world, a lot of countries started leaving it to a point where apparently Pax Armada assassinated the Secretary General of NATO. And NATO didn't even do anything. They just flinched. They were like, yeah, you can just kill people at the top brass. Who gives a shit? And so all of a sudden, every country's like, well, if they're, well, let's just leave. And so basically they become this big bad of the entire universe. Now, in the real world, okay, if any organization like this was acting up, I'm pretty sure most of the world's top governments would probably send the fucking A-team to split that dude halfway and deliver some goddamn Shanghai street justice, which is not what is happening in this game. In fact, if anything, I have a real hard time trying to understand, mission to mission, what the fuck is going on and why we're even moving around. But this is the problem with this game, is that comparing it to Call of Duty is actually so mean to Call of Duty, because COD campaigns are actually fucking good. I actually really love playing Call of Duty campaigns. You know, every year they come out, I set aside a good old 2.5 hours to play through that campaign, and I actually have a really good time. Mission to mission, a Call of Duty campaign has its set piece moments. In fact, even really, I think for me, any campaign since Modern Warfare 2019, with the exception of like COD Vanguard, I've been having a fucking great time with. I've been enjoying those games. I love the way that their stories are presented, even though they're completely unrealistic. You just can tell that they have fun with it, right? Like, for all the Call of Duty missions we've played on this channel, shit like, you know, clearing house in the recent campaigns, even the other, like Call of Duty 2019, Modern Warfare 2019, when it dropped, was not afraid to shoot a child in the fucking brain to show you how scary terrorists and stuff are. They were not afraid to have Piccadilly Circus resemble, like, just have a live terrorist attack happening in front of you and show you all of it. What Battlefield even fails to do is have a battlefield to fight in. A lot of the times you're playing this campaign, it almost feels like they're just putting you through shooting gallery to shooting gallery. And yes, you can say, well, a Battlefield campaign is supposed to be like a soft tutorial for the multiplayer, and that's true. But honestly, it really is just a waste of time. Like, there was this one mission called Night Raid where you think you're going to be doing some stealthy fucking shit, but really you don't. It's mostly just a walking simulator. And eventually, even the points where you think you're going to have this cool, like, stealth, like, you know, clearing an entire, like, house palace section, just turns into a fucking generic bland shooter. In fact, even the dialogue in this game is just generic bland nonsense, okay? It almost just feels like it almost feels like watching a shitty TV show on the shittiest streaming service.
To find out where they were operating domestically.
What's the story?
There are details of Cairo
Was
that...
not addressing you, ma'am.
Sweep the room.
You know, if we known that Pax had the tech to master movements, we probably could have saved Salim.
What are you doing?
I wouldn't have taken a round to the chest, and we probably wouldn't have spent the better part of a week walking around with a severed fucking thumb.
Language.
My bad. Nasty habit. Trying to quit.
The thumb is what I needed to confirm. The RFID chip...
Gave us intel on Kincaid's cell in Brooklyn, but not how they freaking got there.
Watch out there, pal. We're an M-rated game. But anyways, that's all I have to say about the single-player campaign. Like, it really is just a vehicle for you to learn some of the game's mechanic. What about the fucking real meat and potatoes? That is the multiplayer component. And ladies and gentlemen, that shit cooks like a actual... Look, I'm just going to be real with you, man. The multiplayer has good bones, okay? It really does. And I'm trying to be positive over here. So let me explain something here. Now, compared to the previous, like, Battlefield games, it's got a lot of destructibility. Like, every single map that you go to, you have the opportunity to just fucking completely deface entire buildings. Now, the thing about destructibility is what that caveat said. I cannot say in all good consciousness it's actually better than Battlefield 4 even. Previous Battlefield games all have destructibility, but do not expect this to be on the same tier as, I would say, Bad Company 2. Yes, you can open up, you know, just, you can deface walls, for instance. Like, if somebody's hiding behind a window on, like, a second story, fire an RPG, open that up, and then lay fire down. Which you could do in previous Battlefield games. Like, I've done that enough on Cyan Crossing in Battlefield 3 to, again, see the similarities over here. But again, the destructibility is more pronounced, but it's definitely not, you know, like Geomod, Red Faction 2, get rid of everything you see. So just understand that going forward. And this game doesn't have things like Levolution, so some of those mega super giant destructibility moments that you saw in BF4 just aren't here. A lot of the gimmicks are gone. If anything, the game is down to its core, which I think that's what EA is trying to, like, perfect, rather than go for the gimmicks that have kind of killed the Battlefield franchise for the last few years, several years, really. One of my concerns is actually when it comes to the maps, right? So if you look at the amount of maps in the game, there's really not a whole heck of a lot. There's Siege of Cairo, there's Iberian Offensive, there's Liberation Peak, there's Empire State, Operation Firestorm, Saints Quarter, Sobek City, Myrick Valley, and Manhattan Bridge. So some of these maps are relatively decent, but none of them are like huge, okay? No map in this entire game is going to remind you of shit like Damavon Peak. None of this is going to remind you of like Caspian Border. None of this is going to remind you of anything similar to, well, I guess the largest would technically just be Operation Firestorm, which was in the previous Battlefield games. Really, most of the maps in this game, even if you're playing on that Conquest mode, or whatever the large scale modes are, none of these maps are huge. And in terms of verticality, none of these maps, in my opinion, offer the level of verticality as even half the maps in Battlefield 4. And that's the issue that I've kind of had with this game. The map selection is kind of poor. Right? Like, literally, I am probably 48 to 72 hours into this game, and I'm already getting bored of my surroundings. In comparison to Battlefield 4, where, like, you know, you literally did just have some of the best launch day maps, okay? You had shit like, obviously, Siege of Shanghai, you had Dawnbreaker, you had Flood Zone, you had some of the best goddamn maps out there. Even the worst map, in my opinion, for Battlefield fucking 4, which was Galmud Railway, which is basically just an open field, was still an amazing, fun map compared to, well, most of modern Battlefield stuff. No map in this game has really, like, blown my mind in any capacity. In fact, if anything, it feels like, you know, these maps are probably half the size of, like, older Battlefield games, but the quality really just isn't there, okay? And, again, it's kind of tough, too, because I want to compare this to, like, even DLC maps, but I'm just comparing it to base Battlefield 4, and that's where you're going to have a little bit of an issue. Like, in Battlefield 4, there was a lot of verticality in pretty much every map, and that's something you don't get in this, okay? That's something I don't feel is in this game. I mean, it's around, obviously, in the New York maps, but, like, in a lot of the open field stuff, it's just not there. Now, as far as when it comes to the actual, like, weapons and vehicles and stuff, I will say the progression is so fucking solid that that's probably the reason why I'm super balls deep into this game. Because comparing it to, like, previous Battlefield games or even Call of Duty, where I feel like the progression is done in such a weird Skinner box way, where obviously these companies want you to, like, engage with every single dynamic of the game, even if every single dynamic isn't that enjoyable. Here it's just fucking simple, dude. It's like, you like the M4A1? Keep using the M4A1, level that bad boy up, and we'll keep giving you attachments, and you can run that shit like no tomorrow. Or you can just use another gun. It's very much like probably the most perfect form of progression in games. And it's a shame to say that because it's like, it's so simple. It's something that has been done before. And ever since in shooter gameplay, we've went through so many different methods of, like, getting people to try different guns or game modes that, you know, for, like, in Call of Duty, right? Like, one of the reasons why I stopped playing a Call of Duty multiplayer was because in order to unlock, like, an SMG, I had to fucking use an assault rifle that I didn't give a shit about. No, dude, just level me up to the SMG, give me the SMG, and I'm gonna play with it for, like, 30 hours and unlock all the fucking shit associated with it. Don't make me use something else, which is something Battlefield addressed, and they sorted out instantly. Now, the other thing that really kind of blew my mind was the distinct lack of microtransactions. And this is something that I don't know how they're going to monetize Battlefield 6, but they're going to have to find a way. This is very much like they don't give you any battle packs. They don't give you any, like, you know, goofy skins to buy, which is super duper cool. And I don't know if, like, down the road, everything going forward into this game is going to be free, or if they're going to go to, like, map passes or season passes or whatever. But for now, it's pretty welcome to fucking see. Now, there is a map editor, Battlefield Portal, and so far nobody's doing anything goofy with it because the game just came out. But I would be interested to see what people are going to do with, like, custom maps. Maybe people can bring back those super large-scale maps like fucking, you know, the Caspian Border or whatnot, or even, like, Operation Metro. But as far as maps like Siege of Shanghai or Dawnbreaker, Siege of Shanghai being one of my personal favorites, that is nowhere near in this game. And one of the things that I do miss a little bit from Battlefield 4 is, like, Levolution. For anybody that doesn't know, like, Levolution back in the day, like, even as far back as the PS3, they had these, like, baked-in destruction mechanics where, like, at least in Siege of Shanghai, you could break down the entire skyscraper and turn the whole map into a dusty pit, which nobody really, like, liked at the end of the day, like, down the road. Like, it's something you put on with rose-tinted glasses. But there were sometimes playing maps like Flood Zone where you could like trigger a dam and like actually flood up the entire battlefield, forcing people to fight in the rooftops. These are kind of things that I wish I could have seen. Like maybe they could have brought that mechanic back. But they did not do that. The game is still very much, you know, just your traditional Battlefield fare. Now, obviously, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the multiplayer is, it's got really good bones, okay? Like, it's got the best bones. But I feel like it probably did drop for full price with a little less than what I expected. Like, dog, 9 maps, and not all of them are actually good, is a pretty low order. The other issue that I kind of have with this game, too, is, like, the distinct lack of, like, game modes. Like, there is Conquest, there's Escalation, there's Breakthrough, and I guess there's Rush, but I couldn't find it. There's also, like, one mode where you can play, like, local, like, 10v10. So if you don't want to commit to, like, a fucking 30-minute match, you can just play Team Deathmatch. The problem with this game is it has this Hulu mentality, like this streaming service shit, where the UI might be genuinely the worst user interface. Honestly, whoever designed the user interface, I hope to God, like, fucking, that person needs to get fired, okay? Anybody who supports this UI is fucking awful. Like, the user, what happened to just giving me the option to click multiplayer, find game, and a list of playlists, okay? This is like, this Netflix Hulu menu shit doesn't work that well. Like, that, to me, is probably the most annoying shit dealing with it, because ultimately I'm trying to find game modes that I want or filter out game modes, but I'm forced to just jump into these playlists that I really don't want to play with, and I'm trying to figure out how I can even navigate this menu. Stop using the Netflix menu. Now, as far as performance goes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the other last thing that I wanted to talk about. This thing runs smoother than anything. Like, playing it on a PlayStation 5, the reason I got it on console was because, obviously, I use Linux, so kernel anti-cheat, not super duper friendly. Fuck it, buy it on console. And it runs at a rock-solid 60 frames per second on that performance mode. And one thing I didn't know, which blew my mind, was that I can connect a keyboard mouse to my actual PlayStation 5 and just use it like a gaming PC. So maybe going forward might be how I handle some of these kernel anti-cheat games, provided they all give me that keyboard mouse friendliness. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I think they've absolutely cooked Battlefield 6 pretty well. I mean, comparing it to like 2042 or fuck even Battlefield 5, this is a really, really good shooter, okay? Probably the best praise that I can say is that it takes me back to 2011, okay? Back when Battlefield 3 dropped, and that's pretty fucking high praise from me. Look, campaign bullshit aside, they probably could have not made a campaign, and I don't think anybody would have cried. Honestly, they could have saved money and given us like a horde mode or something similar to Survival from Modern Warfare, you know, just the Modern Warfare trilogy, and that would have just been fine. Like, any cooperative mode would have been much more accepted than like a box standard campaign that they probably spent too much money developing to begin with. But as far as multiplayer goes, ladies and gentlemen, it might be, it's the direction Battlefield needed to go to. And ultimately, there is still a ways to go. I think there's definitely, like, they immediately have to start, like, ironing out maybe some of the slight netcode problems. They might have to start ironing out some of the key issues, some of the smaller issues, and then immediately give us at least some good vertical maps to begin with. Just give us Dawnbreaker to start off, okay? Like, dude, you can just copy Siege of Shanghai into this game, and I think we would all kind of nut. Simple as that. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about with Battlefield 6. I think it's a pretty good experience, ladies and gentlemen. And, you know, as a longtime Battlefield fan, good job, EA. Good job for now. And you know what? If in a month they'll fuck this up because down the road they'll add, like, some goofy skins or whatever, even though they said they aren't, at least I can say the last 3-4 days gave me a nostalgia boner that I quite enjoyed, okay? Watching this game and then actually playing it a little early and then playing it with the boys. Good time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.